Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what I did to get from being 100% of the business to just 1% of the business. For those who don't already know me, my name is Bala, and I have been running a physiotherapy practice for the past 8 years, and we have opened 8 clinics, and I also run a personal training gym, as well as a couple of other businesses. And if you have stumbled upon this video, you may not already know that currently I help other healthcare clinic owners scale their businesses to the maximum potential. Now let's get to it. Firstly, I'm going to show you what the trajectory looked like for myself starting out back in 2018, to today, which is 2025. And I'm going to show you what my path looked like in terms of the revenue, in terms of the clinic growth, and in terms of my contribution to the clinic. And most importantly, I also want to run you through the struggles I faced in each and every stage of my business. So firstly, I'll just share my screen to show you what my graph looks like and what it means. So if you guys can see my graph, so this is essentially what my clinic does on every month, right? So as you can see, when I first started back in 2018, so between 2018 to 2019, that was the first year of business. And this is how the blue line shows you how much I'm doing relative to the business, and as well as this is how much revenue the business is bringing in. And as a general overview, you can see it has been on a very much an upward trend. And currently we do anywhere between 300 to 350,000 a month. Yep. So business is going great. And I really just wanted to share with you the journey that got me here. So firstly, during this stage between 2018 to 2019, it was just all me. So basically, I was the only person in the business, and I had help from everywhere and anywhere possible to literally just maintain the business, right? So during this phase, you can see the revenue it's low to minimal, and you'll be thinking, how do I even survive this whole year, right? I actually took up a part-time job, so another job, thankfully also in the same space. I was still able to see clients elsewhere, and actually a public hospital, right? So I did part-time in a public hospital. They paid me by the hour just so that I can have something to bring home, enough to make a get by through every day, so that I'm not starving essentially, right? So it was those kind of movements that really taught me grit, taught me perseverance, and really made me push through. I think otherwise, I would have probably gone into a very dark, deep hole that I may or may not have come out of. So I'm very grateful for just being able to have the right mindset to tell myself that this is not the end, even though it's not doing well at all. Like I was earning way below what I used to take home when I was back in the hospital before I took a leap to my own private practice, right? So it was really, really tough period for me. And as you can see, it slowly started to pick up in the middle of or early 2019. So that's where my partner actually came on board to join me in the business. So of course, with his help, you can see there's already starting to have a difference in terms of how much I contributed to the business versus my partner as well, and versus the whole group, right? So this whole period is what we term as stage one. Now I'm just going to change screen to show you another graph that I have done up to show you guys what it looks like from stage one all the way to stage 6 in this journey. So if you guys can see, so this is what the roadmap looks like. So having been through from the first stage to now at the very last stage, I can actually map out and show you guys exactly what it takes, what you're going to feel, and what you need to do to get to the next stage in this journey, right? So essentially, I was here, I just started my own clinic, and to help you guys, I have actually zoomed in. So when you first start your own clinic, these are all the things that a lot of people face, and this is what I have also found when I speak to many business owners these days, especially when I help them with their business, right? And they share these sentiments. They say, no one knows that I exist, right? So they might think they put themselves in a quite a prominent space. But truth be told, no one knows you exist. And even at this point in time, where I'm already at stage 6, and I can tell you, still nobody knows me, right? So it's also a mindset that you should have, because that's going to push you towards marketing even more and more, right? And in during the initial stage, you also have very low cash flow and very high anxiety. Okay, so even recently, I've partnered with someone to open a joint venture clinic. That's also something that I do, and yeah, a lot of times it's a two-way discussion, and what I provide is a lot of reassurance that this is very normal when you first start off to have very low cash flow, and which is going to give you very high anxiety. But if you do the right things and know the path, it often helps to reassure you, right? So that's where I was, very, very low cash flow. And the first thing that gets paid every time you have cash is your business. You as the owner are the last one to get paid, and that is normal. Okay. Yeah, everything is basically done by yourself, and often you are doing it quite badly very often, right? And which is okay. Like for example, for myself, during that stage, I brought in a new hire, but he did not last very long at all, and it's totally not his fault or due to any of his doing, but it simply was that I was just not ready to hire. The fact that even I wasn't even in the clinic most of the time because I was doing a part-time gig and I was trying to market, I was doing reach outs. I could not be there to nurture and guide an employee, right? So that was a mistake that I made, and yeah, I had to do everything myself, so which includes like laundry, right? I still remember a time where I need to pick up all my dirty towels, walk a good, I think, 5 to 10 minutes down towards the nearest laundromat, and I would have to put the towels in the wash, which took about, I believe, about 40 minutes to clean, to wash, and then I had to come back to the place. Sometimes I'm between clients, so once the client ends, I got to run out just so that I can remove it from the wash and put it into the dryer, right? And then the drying takes another 20 minutes, so I got to walk back 10 minutes to the clinic and come back to take the final load and lug it back all the way to the clinic. And this happened on a weekly basis, right? But that's fine, right? So I was doing everything myself. Yeah, what else? Including doing the outreach, liaising with partners, and so on and so forth, right? But that's the game, right? So you are doing everything yourself. You are in this zone. You can also go into burnout. So burnout from overthinking every detail, right? So thankfully, I was able to perhaps get over that part um, from the start. So I did not really have an issue with overthinking, because I know for a fact that the success is in the implementation and not the thinking. Everyone can think, not many people will execute, right? So thankfully, I did not overthink, but many of my mentees, they are close to burnout because they simply think through all the bad situations that can possibly happen, and end of the day, not even do anything at all because of this. And that's where you don't get success. You have zero shots on goal, right? Constant price doubts. Am I charging too high? Am I charging too low? Right? And that is also something that I had. And I went the traditional route of charging as low as I possibly could, which I did. And yeah, I was giving very, very low prices to my clients, to a point I was asking myself, is this even worth my time? But of course, I had a different mindset. I knew that I'm not comparing $35, $45 versus $200, but I was comparing that amount to $0. So, because I'm saying this as I talk to my mentees, they often fall into the pitfall of thinking, why should I offer services for less when I can be charging this amount? But the fact is, you're not 100% booked out. So you're not comparing apples to apples, right? So I started low, and as I built my brand, as I did the good work, I got my testimonials, I did all the right things. I was able to charge higher and higher, and at this point in time, I charge easily 2 times more than what I used to over the past couple of years. Right. Next was imposter syndrome that I also definitely was facing. So I was just a not fresh graduate, but I was as a physiotherapist for 4 to 5 years at the most. Yes, I did a lot of great things, a lot of things that most physios don't do in this stage. But still, there was a imposter syndrome chasing me every day. I kept thinking to myself, why would anyone pay top dollar to come and see me who's a nobody, right? Why would anyone want to work with me? Why would any company want to partner with me, right? And so on and so forth. So why would a doctor even trust me, right? So these were all constant thoughts going in my mind, and a lot of it was unfounded. And I had no one to reach out to even get me out of this shell. And that's sometimes why I feel maybe I took this long to break out of this cycle at the start. I could have very much so, like some of my mentees, done this at a much quicker stage, much quicker pace, right? Lastly, friends and family, they don't take you seriously as well, which may come as a shock. Often you think friends and families would be the most supportive. And I literally had a conversation today with someone, and I was sharing my story whereby neither my parents nor my then girlfriend, who's now my wife, my family, my friends took me seriously, right? Because at that point, I even before I started the clinic, I did reach out to people to partner with me, to invest with me into this idea, but no one actually believed in it. And yeah, people just think, why are you doing this, right? Like, you have a stable job, you're doing well. Why would you do something crazy like this, right? So everyone around you is just looking at you, thinking this guy's going to fail and going to come back, and we'll have a good laugh about it. But that did not deter me. So I believed in myself. I took the leap, and here I am, 8 years down the road. Right. So those are some of the things that was happening during this initial stage. So just talking back to the other slide. So that was during this stage. And then, of course, I started to move on to the next stage, which was this period. And I think we all know what happened during this time. So between the period of 2019 to 2020, I managed to get my first hire. So I run a physiotherapy business. I managed to hire a full-time physiotherapist, which was amazing. A very good friend of mine who decided to take the leap and join me. And we were venturing into a few other things like teaching on courses. We were running dry needling programs in Singapore through an international brand. And yeah, all that was going on. We got on a part-time massage therapist as well. So that's why the revenue at this point was, but slowly picking up, right? Um, but of course, as things were going well, we know what happened here. So COVID hit. Yeah, so that was a shocker to everyone. We were not allowed to operate, and yeah, uh, and we really struggled, right? So yeah, April to May 2020 was what I call the circuit breaker. Yeah, around this period, you can see that there was a large dip. Um, and even though COVID continued to last during this period, you can see we did a few things differently during this period to really bring the revenue up. And even during this duration, what's notable, yes, there was a dip in my revenue, but it was not significant. It's actually higher than some of my later periods. Yeah, you can see. And this was because we were one of the first few to pivot really, really quickly into the tele rehab space. And I was seeing probably 50 to 80% of my clients still, meaning they continued to see me via teleconsult, right? So they trusted me, they value my professional inputs rather than my physical space, and they still continue to pay me top dollar to give them advice and go through the teleconsult. So which we were one of the first few. We came out in the papers, but even though bad things were happening, we managed to ride the tide. Thankful for our government's help as well to reimburse us for some of my staff salary. So everyone got paid. Amazing, right? So but it was a really, really tough time, and we pivoted heavily onto doing a lot of webinars, doing a lot of online coaching, exposing ourselves, partnering with brands. We did so much during that time, and rather than just sit idle and complain that this is unfair, life is unfair, right? So really thankful for the team and all this. Some of my first few hires at this point in time, they are still here with me today, which is God bless, right? So it was amazing. So that was going on during this period. And if we go back to in terms of what it looks like on the scaling chart, so basically over here, right? So I was saying like how I was actually doing really well, and I was still the 100% contributor in this scenario. So I'll show you perhaps another slide, which shows you what my contribution is. Let me just make sure I'm pulling up the right file. So during this stage, I was the main driver of the business, right? Which meaning that if no one came to see me or if something happened to me, I was going to be in a lot of trouble. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So this one shows you the same slide where showing you the clinic's revenue, showing you my contribution. But this time is also the green scale showing how much percentage of revenue that I am contributing to the business. So between 2018 to 2019, I was at 100%. So meaning everything was me. And you can see it slowly started to come down. So right around 2020, 2021, I was doing anywhere between 60 to 80% contribution to the business. We are still very high. And I knew that that was not the space and time space I wanted to be, right? I wanted to be somewhere a lot lower because this is high risk. If something happens to me, it affects my employees, it affects my partner, it affects my business, right? So which I was quite aware during the stage. And I also got myself a mentor, incidentally, during this period, as I was sharing, we brought in an international brand to run programs, courses for physiotherapists through them. And there's a very, very senior physio who also runs a business. He worked his way up to be the owner of the business, even though he started as an employee. And he has been there for, I think well over 20 over years, right? And he shared this with me. He said he, at that point in time, only contributed the 1% of the business, which blew my mind because there I was doing 80%, 70% of the business. And I thought to myself, like, how is that even possible, right? That's crazy numbers. But just someone there telling me that they have been there, done that, and it is possible, gave me so much hope. And literally from there onwards, I made it my mission to get to those numbers. So during that stage, as I mentioned, we also got in a couple of new hires. So thankfully, friends who I knew before decided to join me because of the brand, the influence that we had, doing all the right things, marketing to get the correct hire, right? So during that stage, I was full, but the worry came, oh, now that I have a staff, now that I am responsible to basically make sure that he has a living, I need to make sure that he has clients to see. But leads were drying up, right? So there wasn't enough to go around for me, for my staff, for my partner. So we were all dependent on seeing patients as a livelihood, right? And there wasn't a plan for what's next, right? So there wasn't no one to show me that you do this, you're gonna get to the next level. If you don't do this, this is what's gonna happen, right? Yeah, so I was happy to be booked out, but not happy when I saw that people were not getting fed, right? So this was a disservice to my staff, and I owed it to them to make sure that they can actually take home a decent pay to continue on with their living, right? Um, yeah, so I was there during this period. Um, and then I also went on to hire my full-time staff. So I tried my best to. So this two period was a little bit joined together, where I was booked out and I also had a staff, right? So one of the things that happens over here is, as I was starting to get leads through my own word of mouth and the referrals that I knew, they sorry, maybe I jumped the gun. So that's over here, right? So prior to that, nobody wants to hire, nobody wants to come to work with me. Well, thankfully, I had people, so I managed to fast track during this stage. And as I got to this stage, and in between these two, whereby I did not have enough leads, and at the same time, the leads that I brought in weren't being serviced or seen well enough like me. Or sometimes the patients don't even want to see anyone else and they only want to see me, right? And because of that as well, I also didn't know how to manage people in general, right? So really going through that period between these three stages and what that looked like on the graph. Yep. So on the graph, so on the graph, yeah, so during this period between 2020 to 2022, I had quite a few new hires. We even tried to set up um, new services, which includes our hand therapy services, which included like a new two new locations during this period. We tried all through very organic sources, right? And we learned so much lessons. There was a point in time during this COVID period where we just opened a new location and COVID hit, but we weren't allowed to operate because we were operating inside of a gym, and gyms couldn't operate during the circuit breaker or COVID period, but healthcare services could. So that's where I had to quickly pivot. Thankfully, I could remove myself out of the gym and we got a physical space. But of course, that meant more cost into your renovation, a physical space, you are putting the deposits and so on and so forth. But it is what it is. We had to do it, right? So that's how we got through that. And yeah, thankfully, people were willing to join us because I did have the structure in place in terms of I knew what kind of salary people wanted, how people wanted to be paid, and how I did not want to pay people. So there are different ways to remunerate staff, and based off your remuneration, you can get different types of people coming through. And you may incline towards one and not the other, which I from the get-go, I knew what I wanted. Structure it in that way, and people will come. And you also have to kind of do things in the right way to stand out, to show that your brand is different. Your brand is something that they can fit their life goals in, their career goals in, right? So that's what we started doing at this point in time, so that we can lead that small team well. Okay. And one of the other big things which I showed in the other chart is that people don't sell like you. They don't service their clients like you. They don't show value like the owner, right? So, which then got me thinking, right? So I'm sure I was confident that these are all skills that can be learned, right? And very often it's hard to blame that one person for why they are responding and treating things in a certain way. So I took it away from wanting to blame that person to blaming my business, the way I operate, the way I have set things up. So I changed things around. I put in a lot of structures so that it made it easy for people to follow, right? Very simple example, right? So if you, in a physiotherapy sense, there's a lot of debate if you are a passive modality type of therapist or you are a very active therapist, meaning you believe more in exercises and so on. So there's no right and wrong way in an absolute sense. Of course, there are nuances and there are research to back certain ways to communicate and deal with patients. But and whatever your choice be, right? As a business, at the end of the day, you're a business owner, right? So what brings in the money? What protects your reputation? What builds the brand? Okay. The key thing to note is, let's say if you set up your clinic with all just massage beds and massage creams, chances are the higher you're going to get, they're going to perform massages. Okay. But if you set your whole clinic up just with gym-based equipments and no treatment beds, your staff are going to be forced to use a very active approach, right? So I knew from the get-go that I had to provide the environment for so that people can fit in their way of treating clients, which will automatically fall into perhaps as a business owner, your perception of how you might want your client to be treated. So that's what I did. And I set things up in a certain way so that this can be fulfilled, which worked great. And that's how I tackled that stage. Okay. So looking back at the stages, so this is where we were. I continued to be booked out. I managed to get hires, and people were starting to sell like me, right? In that sense. So that's where we were. And then generally you can see this is where you are, brick and mortar, like me, 5 to 20K per month at the most in terms of revenue. You move on to doing about 20 to 30K in this stage. When you get your first hire, you may end up 30 to 45. And once you have a small team, you can hit 45 to 70K. So roughly between 2 to 3 people in a team, right? And the next stage is when you have a growth spurt. You can go from 70 to 90 or even more. That's when you start refining your ops, right? So where you really build the business. Okay. Just going through this in a bit more detail. People don't sell like you. And here you are. You build the business, you hit capacity, but you don't have any clarity on numbers. You're basically somehow done things in a certain manner, and you created a business, but you're flying blind. And I do speak to quite a few business owners in this scenario as well. And they often forget to go through this stage or rectify this stage, because you shouldn't continue to be completely booked out, because once you build a business, if you're still booked out, you are still a very high contributor to the business, right? So if I show you my stats, so you can see my stats. So I was doing 100%, and during this period, brought it down to 80 to 60. And after this mid 2022 mark, it's continued to go down in a very linear sense, right? So of course, I think all of this could be fast tracked, and all this I figured out mostly on my own. Okay. So, but imagine you reach this point where your company is doing, $100 to $200,000 every month, but you are still a very significant contributor to the company. Okay, and that's going to make you a liability more than an asset to the company. Okay, so you have to start removing yourself from certain roles, and this is not even just talking about clinical roles. If you are still the guy who answers every phone call, if you are still the guy who sits in every interview, if you are still the guy who fights every fire, you are not setting things up for success. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. And last but not least, when you reach this point, you have already likely built a 7-figure clinic, right? And you can have a few options, either you expand, you exit, or you just enjoy doing 1% of work to get your business going, right? So it's amazing. It's a great place to be. You can do different kinds of things. Like for myself, I love to teach. I love to do business. And here I am doing business coaching, right? So hope that was useful. That was helpful, and hopefully motivates you guys to chase that single digit number. Catch you on the next one.